Good morning. Morning, everyone. G'day from down under. Popping in a bit earlier today. I've got stacks to actually do. Let me just make sure that that's on silent. No, it's not. Yeah, I've got stacks to do today because I've got to be organised for a massive shoot that I've got tomorrow and also Sunday. I'm doing a big dance studio shoots for 2 days. So I'm going to be busy for a couple of days. So I've had to pop on a little bit earlier today. So pop in on the chat if you can as you start to log in. I'd love to know who's here because we're going to have a little bit of a pre-show just before we start. It's lovely and warm today in Melbourne. We're already 27 degrees Celsius, so it's really warm. And what are we, 9 o'clock in the morning? So it's very, very, very early. But let's go. So, g'day, Vilken, how are you? Guy with the cameras here. The Panda's also here. G'day, Panda. Are you in New York yet? Or you're still on that train? Sizzleman's, yeah, starting early. Yeah, I've got to get stuff ready for a couple of studio shoots that I'm doing. Big shoots from about, I think we start at 10 in the morning until we go about 6 at night for 2 days. So it's going to be a massive shoot for myself and Kerry over the next couple of days. I might see if I can go live and show you the setup and things like that once I get it all organised, because I'll show you what a big production this actually is. It's interesting too because it uses every bit of gear that I've got. I think I'm taking something like 14 light stands and, oh, look, I've just got everything. It's nuts. Let me just pull over to here just so we can see who's here. Yeah, so Panda's come in. He was on his way to New York, so he's going away for the weekend. Scissor Man, that's why I'm starting early. 42 Pros, been a while. Ted said, greetings from Baltimore. 42 Pro said for me, yeah. John said, hi, David from Tennessee. And 42 Pros is saying hello again, David. Dan says, good day. Chris said, hello, everyone. MZM says, always a great show. Thank you so much for saying that. Miralus says, hi, that telephoto Tamron lens. Woohoo, let's talk about that. You're talking about the 70 to 180. We will be today. Jose, first time watching you live. Wow, Jose, thank you for joining us. Diana's here as well. Got to come see David. Oh, thanks, Joanna. Diana, I mean, sorry. Hi, David, love the show. Just wondering how you generally manage shooting in public spaces using light stand, strobe, etc. Are permits generally needed? Well, they may be in Melbourne, but I've never, ever been asked to show one, so I've never, ever had an issue in Melbourne. I know some places are quite strict, but I've never, ever been stopped, and that's with light stands and lights and, you know, extras and all models sort of running around. And I've never, ever been asked to produce a permit or anything like that. So I think Melbourne's pretty good. John said, hello from Michigan, 7 Celsius. It's funny now, we're starting to switch around. Oh, you know what? It's 9:30 in the morning, but it might be time, or I've got to be careful I don't show this. Hang on. Woo. Let me just come in over here. It might be time. It might be time for me to start drinking some real coffee. I've got my Sony mug, so the Sony mug is ready, and I'm going to open up my coffee with this Las Vegas. Hey, we're coming to Las Vegas in 3 months. Let me just see if I can get that off my face. Where are we? Focus. I've had this set for a wedding the other day. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so Las Vegas, I'll be there in 3 months. Gerald's organising some great things, so we can't wait. So join us in the photography videography school. I'll show that in a minute because that's probably a good page where you can sign up for the meets and all that sort of stuff that we're going to do. I applied for my visas yesterday and got them, so no problem with the visas. Let me just open up my coffee. You guys are a bad influence because it's only 9:30 in the morning and I'm drinking a multi coffee. Hang on, I better pour it over here. Otherwise, I'll be demonetized. Ooh. Panda's giving me $10. What are you doing, Panda? Thank you so much, Panda. Really appreciate that. Now, let me just see if... cheers for the coffee. We say cheers down here. It's been ages since I've had a real coffee with you guys. Yum. I'll be in so much trouble from Kerry because she'll be saying, David, it's only that time in the morning. What are you doing drinking stuff at this time of the day? Let me just answer this quick question because a person's just asking me about tomorrow. Yep, 4:30. So, got some interesting things to say today. At least it's about some Sony stuff today because we've got some rumours about Tamron and stuff like that. But I just wanted to have a quick pre-show before we started that. Thanks so much, Panda, for that donation. Didn't expect that at all. What else are we? John says, hello from Michigan. That's 7 Celsius. Yep, we're around 30. What are we going to be today? 32. So it's not too bad today. Ben saying morning. Gerald's also here saying good morning. Martin said first time live for me. Chucked a sickie. G'day, Martin. Good to see you in here then. Ben, oh, I didn't put the timer on again. God, I'm hopeless, honestly. How long have we been on? I think it's about 10 minutes. I'll just work it out later. Honestly, I'm hopeless. So, g'day, Tom. Good to see you. Greetings from North Carolina. Chris said, hello. David, windy day in Los Angeles, but a good Corona day. Cheers. Derek said, couldn't wait for the 70 to 180 Tamron. Just picked up the 70 to 200 millimeter Sport with the MC11. And yeah, that'll work fine. The adapters work really good now, so there's no issue really anymore with using those adapters anymore on the Sonys. The MC11 particularly is great. Let me just answer this dance instructor. Yeah, the MC11 is great. I remember when I used it with the 135mm, that was a Canon mount. And I thought it was focusing almost as good as what my Sony 135 focused. So it was really good. I was really surprised in how good that MC11 adapter worked. Because I hadn't used one before, and I was amazed at how accurate the focus was and how fast it was. So with Canon lenses particularly, they're fantastic. Jordan's saying, so glad you do a live show. It's 10:04 p.m. here. Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I may end up doing it now at this time because it's easy for me because it's 9 o'clock in the morning here. So I don't have to wait till sort of 10 o'clock or 11. Then it's nearly lunchtime before I finish. So this may be better for me. G'day, Oreo. Saw you and Aaron yesterday. It was nice to see you both in Italy. Thank you so much for that, Panda. Ted said coffee time. It certainly is. I might even have another bit of that malty coffee. Oreo said a show in time when I don't feel like a zombie when I watch it. That's great. Yeah, like I said, daylight savings is just finished here or started here, Oreo. So we're an hour difference in time. John said day drinking is the best. Laugh out loud. Not till Kerry season, she'll tell me off. Alex said good evening. Still loving your toolbox. Yes, I am. Guys, this toolbox, check it out. Let me see if I can bring it up. This thing is unbelievable. And it's funny, I got 4 downvotes before I even hardly posted it. I thought, what's wrong with these people? It's fantastic. Have a look at the video that I just posted because I review it and show you how I work it and use it. Now, I've only just started to program these buttons in this thing. But have a look at the video to see how this works. Now, I did my first wedding edit with it the other day through Lightroom, and I would say even getting used to the controls, it probably sped up my Lightroom by 40% to get through the images. So it's super fast, and you've got great controls like, you know, turning the knobs for changing your brush size. You can set all of these different controls everywhere. I love it. And I used to have this bigger one that I had that now is not supported any longer. So they sent me this. I haven't paid for it. They did send it to me. But like everything, guys, I'd tell you the truth. I love it. I really love it. So once I get this into muscle memory, because it takes a little bit of time to get these into muscle memory, once you get it into your muscle memory, you can fly around with all your controls. There's so much customization that's on this. And I think it's around $200, or it might be a fraction less than that. There's a couple of others around that are much more expensive, but that's really all I need at this stage. So I just love it, just to be able to flick through the images very, very quickly. And when I'm using my Wacom, because I use a Wacom as well, to use that with that, unbelievable. I love it. It's fantastic. So thoroughly recommend it. We will start soon, guys. I'm just getting through some of these questions. So if you haven't checked out the Toolbox video, check it out. I posted it this morning. So it went live this morning, and it had Kiara in the images that I was editing. So check that out. And the lovely Kiara's in there as well. Michelle said, hello, David. G'day, Michelle. Good to see you here. Chris said, Corona good for washing the dust down of your mouth. I know, it is. Yeah, it's very good for that, actually. Problem is, I'll probably want another one after I finish that one. Oh, I love it. Langston, g'day, mate. How are you? Hello from smoky as hell Los Angeles. Yeah, hope you guys are okay with fires. No doubt we'll be having fires shortly. We always do. They're predicting a bad bushfire season here, so hopefully it's not too bad. I'm seeing you guys in 3 months, Langston, so it's getting very close now. It's not long at all. Derek said, yeah, I was scared about video autofocus, but so far so good. What camera was that with, Derek? Thanks for the normal UK hour shoes, David. No worries. Like I said, I may stick with this time now during my summer. I'm near Charlotte, Thomas said. Panda says, Langston, what's up? Supernomic says, happy Halloween. Yes, that was yesterday for us. Best program or software when editing video? I like Final Cut Express, John. I love Final Cut. That's the main program that I use for that. I've tried Premiere for a while, but I just didn't like it. It just didn't seem to run as good on my Mac Pro that Final Cut does, because everything's integrated. It integrates with like iTunes. It integrates with everything like my iPhone and everything. Like it all works so well if you're on the Mac side. If you're on a PC side, obviously I'd use Premiere. I did use Premiere for a while, but then what I liked about Final Cut is I can just make that one purchase. And then they keep updating it, and then I get the next version, and you never have to pay for it again, basically. So whenever they add new features, you never have to pay anything else for it. So once you've made that initial payment, that's it. So yeah, I love Final Cut. Panda said, David always tells the truth. Thanks, Panda. Alex said, the Toolbox has been the biggest game changer piece of kit for me this year. Get yourself a loop deck. Yeah, I've looked at that too, Alex, and I may look at that sometime as well, because that might work with this toolbox. Like I said, I'll show you the controller I used to have, just so you know. So this was the one that I used to have, and I purchased this. It was quite expensive at the time. It was called RPG keys, and you could program all of these keys to do different functions. I mean, I didn't use all of them, but I did use quite a few of them. Let me just put it away. But the problem was that it's not supported any longer. The developer contacted everyone and said that they just can't keep up with the development of Lightroom and stuff like that. So that was a problem. Whereas I think I prefer even this toolbox though, because I like the controls, the dials on it, and the quick keys, and I love that size that actually is. Like I said, I did one wedding. I've only just got it, so I'm still learning how to use it, and I'm still learning what quick keys to put in. Like, I've sort of got Lightroom nutted out now, but I've got to now sort of nut out Photoshop, and I can use this also in Final Cut. I think you can use it basically in programs. I'm not sure if it'll work in Capture One. I haven't looked at that because I don't use Capture One, but it can use, I think, with anything that has those shortcuts, I think. But I know it works with Final Cut, I know it works with Lightroom, and I know it works with Photoshop. But it did speed up my Lightroom wedding edit the other day about 40%, so it made a massive difference. Loved it. Let me just come back to here. Loop Deck looks like it's pretty good too, though. I thought that as well. On First Things First, Casper's there, so they're starting on each other already, Phonomiac and Casper. Yeah, I don't think it's here yet, Ike. I supported the Toolbox on Kickstarter, David. Received it 2 weeks ago. Speeds up everything considerably. Yes, it does. Yeah, I heard there was some initial problems getting them and stuff, but perhaps they are shipping them now. Like I said, they just contacted me and said, would I be interested in it? And I always have a look at what's there. And when I looked at it, I thought, wow, that might be a replacement for that RPG keys that I had. Yeah, we're still in pre-show, Carl, so don't panic about that. Langston says, best program is really subjective, depends on how you like to edit. Yep, exactly. Like I said, I tried Premiere, but I just preferred Final Cut for me, and that's just what I like. It just depends on what you like using. Others will say they love Premiere and they don't like Final Cut. Photomix says Final Cut is the best program. Panda says, about to land in the heart of New York City at night, go live at the Halloween party. Cool, I might be able to watch that, Panda. Talk to you later, no worries. Langston says, I would like a real user to give me a demo sometime on what they like about it so much. Yeah, perhaps I'll do one, Langston. I have done a couple before, I think, showing how I use it, though. Or was it in my Patreon group? I can't remember. Alex said, yeah, not excited by the latest Loop Deck CT. The Loop Deck Plus is a huge time saver in Lightroom. My editing sped up tenfold. I prefer using the Toolbox for Photoshop. Oh, interesting, Alex. Thanks for sharing that. Langston says, I can't say I've experience with the Apple Touch Bar. Guy with the camera said, the wait for the Tamron 7180 is killing me. Need emergency therapy. I love it. All right, so let's get started anyway on the show. Let me just quit this bit here. And I'm going to go to the Osler Images logo and we'll start. Well, good morning, everyone. Or I should say g'day, actually, because I am an Aussie and we don't say good morning, we say g'day. Great to see you all again. This probably now is going to be the new time that I'm going to be broadcasting these now. It is 9:30 in the morning and I have just opened up a... I got to watch what you show. I have just opened up a multi-coffee, even though it's only 9:20 in the morning, but I thought it's, what is it, 28 degrees of Celsius already. So, cheers. I'm back to those now. Back to my Sony t-shirts because it's warmer again now. I love it. We're out of winter. Woohoo! I'll be dancing on the table after I've had a few more of those drinks. Got some interesting stuff to show you today. Like I said, I might do this from this time now because just changed daylight savings time just recently. So 9 o'clock in the morning is much better for me because then I don't lose the whole rest of the day. So I probably will now make this time for the whole time. When we do Aaron, Carl said too early to drink. I know Kerry's going to tell me off. It's never too early. Well, what time is it in the US, Carl? I'll be on the normal time with Aaron, though, on Wednesday. We couldn't do last week's show because Aaron's in Italy at the moment on holiday. He met up with Oreo yesterday. Yeah, this might be now the new time. And I think that also might be good for the Europeans, too, because I know in London it was about 10 o'clock at night, so some of them may be able to pop in as well. I have got massive shoots this weekend. I'm going to try and go live if I can. We're doing some real big dance studio shoots for the whole Saturday and Sunday this weekend. It's one of the biggest jobs that I do, actually. I go from around 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. So it's going to be very, very exciting. Can't wait for that. So I might show you how I set that up and all that sort of stuff. Apart from that, the wedding last week went great. If you want to check that out, I did just post the video. It's 2 videos back. The one I just posted this morning is on that toolbox that I just posted. The one before that will show you the wedding. It was interesting because we had a bit of an issue. It was meant to be an outside wedding, but it started pouring down before the wedding, and we had to move indoors to get to shoot inside the location. But it was incredibly backlit, like very heavily backlit, because as soon as we moved indoors and set it up there, the sun came out, which was interesting. And so it was incredibly backlit. So I did have issues with exposing for the couple. So you'll notice that when you look at the video, how hard it is when you're really backlit. Now, if we'd had time and space, I couldn't put lights close to the couple because there just wasn't room because it was very tight. They didn't expect to be shooting inside. It was meant to be outside. If it was enough room, I could have put lights in and lit the couple up and then tried to balance it out that way. But we just couldn't. So the lights would have had to have gone right at the back. And I haven't got lights that are powerful enough to do that. So I had to just expose basically for the couple as good as I could and blow out the background. But have a look at the video anyway. I think it's come up fantastic. That was the first one that I've done as just a videographer. So it was really interesting. She loved it. The bride cried when she saw it the other day. And It was really nice. It was very interesting to shoot though, because it was pouring down rain 1 minute and then it was sunshine the next, like bright sun, really strong sun. And it was also like cloudy, and then in between the shot I'm actually doing, the cloud would move and then the bright sunlight would come out. So getting decent exposures was an absolute nightmare. And I did try to protect the highlight as much as possible, but there was a couple of spots where I think she was spinning. If you look at that one, you'll notice that the highlights have been slightly blown. And that's because I exposed for, as it was, because there was cloud cover there for that second, and then it cleared immediately when it went on. We had limited time to shoot. But overall, I'm really happy with how the video came out. So have a look at it. It's 2 videos down, so check that out. Or 3 videos down, I can't remember. Have a look at that. Apart from that, let's get stuck in to today's show. So I'm going to go on to this, which is the Tamron 70-180. Now they're saying now that it's going to start shipping out in March 2020. So that's the timeline at this stage. I did speak to the Tamron Australia representative last week when I went to a Sony. Well, it wasn't an expo, it was the Sony Print Awards. I went there, I think it was last Friday. I did speak to her about it, how excited I was when it's going to be coming out. They don't know when they'll receive them yet, obviously, but as soon as they have got one here in Australia, I will get a copy of it, and I'm looking forward to getting that because I will review it for you guys, so I will get it. Apart from that, I can't really tell you much else. I mean, if I knew the date when it was being released, I couldn't tell you anyway, because I'd be under NDA. But I am really excited about getting this. Like I said, I may even sell my 70-200 f4 once I've tested this. I may even sell it before that, I'm not sure, because I'm so keen on getting this one. But it's going to be really exciting. No costing yet on what this will be. But I know there's the other lenses that have just been announced that Tamron announced just the other day. I may review those. I may not. I mean, some people are probably interested in them in the fact that they're small, tiny lenses. You know, that they're 2.8 aperture, great for gimbal type use. But to be completely honest about them, I'm not that excited about those lenses like the 20 and the 24. I've got the, I prefer to have the 17-28 and the 28-75. If it was me, and I did say that to them the other day, that I think the zoom lenses are a better buy over that range, because here in Australia, those little small lenses are around about $600, I believe. That's what they're going to be. So they're expensive, really expensive here. Not so bad in the US, because I think they're only 300 odd, but that's the dollar exchange rate at the moment. But I think for that price, I'd probably get the 17-28 and the 28-75. And then if you want that holy trinity, you could wait and get the 70-180 as well. That's probably what I would recommend people to do. I notice Carl says the 20mm looks interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would have been more interested in those lenses if they were 1.8 aperture, but then obviously price goes up and also the size would go up as well. But the 70-180 definitely interests me, because that's a lens that I would use and it fits in with those other lenses that I've got. I'm not worried about losing that extra 20mm. It's probably 10%. And if you talk about focus breathing anyway, they might be almost about the same focal length. We don't know that yet until we test to see if the 180 has any focus breathing. Quality, like I said before, I haven't got the Tamron. Oh, yes, I have. Quality, like I've said before, on these Tamron lenses is amazing. They really are. I know that they're like a plasticky material, but boy, I treat this as the same as I treat any other lens, and it looks like it was the day that I bought it. So quality wise, they're fantastic, very, very sharp. This 28-75 I just adore. Probably tomorrow when I'm doing all the dance work that I'm doing, I'll be using this lens all day. Fantastic, I love it. So for me, most of the time now that I use, say, the 70-200 focal length is when I'm at weddings, because that's more the time that I use it. Or Kerry loves putting that onto a second camera, and then she'll shoot with a second camera from another perspective. I might have the 28-75 and she'll have the 70-180 or the 70-200 on her camera, and she'll be sort of roaming around. So for me, the 70 to 180 really interests me, and particularly the 2.8 aperture. Like the f4 is okay. I mean, you can just up the ISO if you want to, but if you are working like I do in dance studios and doing concerts and things like that, and you need to up your shutter speed to stop the movement, having a 2.8 aperture is a big advantage, because you can up your shutter speed, and then you don't have to increase the ISO to ridiculous levels. I know with my 70 to 200, if I use that in dark concerts and stuff like that, I do have to raise the ISO to quite high levels. It's still okay, but I'll be much better with a 2.8 lens. So, and the reason why I haven't bought the G Master is I just don't want to lug around that weight all the time. Whereas this it's going to be the 67mm filter, which is fantastic. It's going to be light. So it fits the way that I shoot perfectly, and that's why I'm so excited about getting this lens. So that really excites me. So let me know what you think about it. I mean, what do you guys think? Are you worried about losing that extra, 10mm or 20mm? I'm certainly not. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Let me just check how the chat is before I go into this next Tamron. Actually, I'll do that first. I'll just go to the next one. So the next one is still Tamron related. They're saying now that there's going to be 6 more lenses. Now these are the ones that have just been released or announced. There's the 20mm, the 2.8. There's the 24 2.8 and the 35 2.8. This is why I'm saying that it doesn't really interest me too much at the moment, because I've got in the other room my favorite lens at the moment, or one of them is the 24 Sony. I absolutely adore that lens. So for me, there's no need for me really to get the 24. I don't use the 35 anymore because I very rarely take that 24 off. It's on the A7 III now, and I just don't take that off usually. Like, that's sort of stuck on there for most of the time. The main lenses I like using at the moment, if we're talking about primes, is the 24 GM. I love the Batis 85 1.8. I adore that lens. And I love the 135 1.8 Sony lens, G Master. I don't use the 70 to 200 much at all since I've bought the G Master. I used to use it much more before that. Now I like to use mostly those primes. Now this is why I was saying that I'm not as interested in these. The 20 possibly could interest me to stick on a gimbal if you want to go a little bit wider. That would be a fantastic gimbal lens at 20mm at 2.8. The 24 again, if you want to go very, very light or travel very light as well, that could also be fantastic. The 35 is a great street portrait lens as well if you want to go that way. But like I said, I think I'm covered. If you get the 17 to 28, the 28 to 75, in the Tamron range, they're all 2.8 lenses. The zooms are 2.8. So it's going to be interesting to see how the quality sort of checks between what these sort of budget lenses are like as against the Tamron zoom lenses. But the interesting thing here is that they're saying they have 6 more lenses on their FE roadmap. Probably and maybe for next year or just shortly after that. So what do you think? And I'm going to open up the chat in a minute and we'll have a discussion about this, but I'd love to know what you think Tamron is going to be releasing, or what you would like them to release. I know what I'd like them to release. I would love them to bring out, say, a 105 or a 100mm 1.8 or a 2.8 lens. That would be interesting. I'd love them to bring out a 200, say, for instance. If they could bring out something like a 200 2.8, or I would dearly love them to bring out a really wide angle, like a 12 or 14. If they could bring out a really good focusing 12 or 14mm wide angle, that would also really interest me as well. So, you know, I mean, it's like I keep saying to people, boy, are we lucky in this industry. We have so many wonderful lens options now, and we just keep getting more and more. We're getting beautiful lenses from Sigma. We're getting amazing lenses from Tamron as well. We've got great lenses from Samyang. I know Gilbert's just bought the Samyang 85 1.4 and he loves that lens as well. So we've got just such fantastic lenses out there, as well as all the Sony native lenses. It's just brilliant. So I'm going to open up the chat because I'd love to know too what you think about that. Let me know in the comment box down below in the comments if you're not watching live. I'd love you to put a comment down below what you would like Tamron to release. And it may even be, that I can talk to Tamron Australia about that as well, because it'd be interesting to see what they say about that as well, and I can give them some opinions about what people are really chasing. Love it too, guys, if you could give me a thumbs up too. I am now changing my time. Like I said, I'm not sponsored. This is the only thing I do for you guys. So if you could give me a thumbs up, it does make a difference because others know that I'm live. YouTube, for some reason, does not put out the notifications, so it's a pain. So I would appreciate that if you could do that. All right, so let's go over to the chat just to discuss this. Where were we up to? Opie Joey says, my God, drinking already. No, it's not drinking, it's coffee. I know, I love it. Ah, well, I'm just having it. Well, it is late in the afternoon in LA time, and I've got to get used to that because I'll be there in 3 months, so I'm just trying to build up to your time. Langston says, it's always happy hour somewhere. Exactly. Dave from the future, how's November? Yeah, we are in November. It's November the 1st, guys, so I am in the future. Carl said 6:19 p.m. Daylight savings should be outlawed. Ryan says it's 3:30 p.m. in Vegas. John said it's 5 p.m. here in Tennessee. It's amazing how it's it's so different everywhere. I'll be probably hit with a bit of jet lag when I come over to the States. Probably it'll take me a couple of days to get over it. Perhaps if I have a few drinks, I'll get over it quicker. Don't be surprised if I'm spanning the Facebook group looking for a video PA. That's fine, Langston. Go ahead for it, mate. N. Thomas said 42 Pro's not on Facebook and just signed up on Insta. Nothing posted yet. A little after 3 here in California. Jeff said thumbs up. Thank you so much, Jeff. Langston also said thumbs up. Great time. Great new time for us, Blighty. Hi, David from Africa. John, see, it's interesting because we are getting other people in now that we don't normally get in. So that is really interesting. So where is the lens assembled? It probably would be Thailand. I don't know. Does it say on it? I'm just trying to see. Let me just have a look. I need a torch. They're probably Thailand, I would think. No, made in China. But you know what? I don't give a hoot where the stuff's made from. As long as it works for me. I don't care if it's made in Japan, China, Thailand, wherever. That does not faze me one little bit. 0007 said Sony 70-300 jumped in price. That's weird. Oh, I wonder why. Carl said the 20mm looks interesting. Yeah, I think that's probably the one that would interest me the most. Like I said, 24 I've already got covered. 35 I haven't got anymore, but I'm not fussed about that. I wasn't even using 35 after I got my 24. That's why I sold my 35. 20mm is probably the one that I would get out of all of those for me because it's a lens that I haven't got. But like I said, with the 17 to 28, it's already in that range anyway. But it just depends. Like as a budget entry lenses, terrific. Chris said, I'm bummed about losing the 20mm on the long end, but at the end of the day, it'll be the only option that won't destroy my bank account. It's only about 10% difference though, so it's not massive. And remember, with focus breathing, I think the 70-200 is probably around that mark anyway, but we don't know whether that 70-180 will focus breathe either. 0007 said, but the plastic feels like space shuttle plastic. It is really good, actually. Carl said plastics is not necessarily a bad thing. They can take a beating and still look good. Yep, exactly, Carl. I'm amazed how well that has done. The colour dye is all the way through the plastic material. Yep. Not to mention improves weight. Exactly. Like I used, if you look at that video that I did on the weekend for the wedding, I used the Tamron 28-75 on my Ninja V. I used the Tamron 28-75. This exact combination. Now it's still got the Moza Air 2 plate on there. So this was the combination that I used for the whole day. I didn't change lenses at all on the day. And it worked fantastic. You can see the ND's still on there. I changed for something, a different ND that I'm not sure if I can talk about yet, but I will once I've got the approval to talk about that. But apart from that, all I did was change to a different ND at the front here. And this was the system that I used the whole time for the whole day. Brilliant. Fantastic. Like, this is what I love about these lenses. Like, the 28-75 is still a decent focal length, but it's still not heavy. And that's what I love about these so much. Now, because I do fusion so much, which is stills and video, I need options that would let me put it on a gimbal and not be weighed down too much, you know, because if I am carrying two cameras, I don't want to be carrying two heavy cameras. It's just too hard to cope with. You know, and it was interesting because on the day we were there, the photographer that was there for the day, she was a Nikon shooter, and I was looking at her. I think she had two D810s or something, and I just looked at it with the lens and the and the massive body, and they were both strapped around her like this on the sides, and I just went, oh my God. And she noticed I had Sony. She went, oh, you've got Sony. And I said, yeah, I love them. And I think she was a bit fascinated with what I had actually. But, you know, I just looked back at it and I thought, my God, that used to be me 4 years ago. And I just think, oh, thank God I didn't have to do that anymore. Let's keep going with the chat. Chris said, I'm fed up with so many lens reviews. When they talk about build quality with loss, we'll toss the lens up and down as if weight is the only thing leading to a build quality. Composites are where it's at. Yeah, like I said, the Tamron lenses I cannot fault with their build quality at all. So I would never, and I'm not sponsored by Tamron, guys. It's the only thing Tamron give me is they're lovely people, but the only thing they give me is early reviews. They let me review it before it's released or something. They don't give me the lenses. They don't give me anything. So, you know, I'm not paid for by Tamron. That's why I laugh so much when I review the early version of the Tamron 28-75, saying how well it focused, and there was issues online with others, but the lens that I had, and I proved it because I was showing everything I was shooting, had no issues, and people were saying I was a sellout and all this sort of stuff. They didn't give me anything. If there was a problem with it, I'd tell them there was a problem. But the build quality on this is wonderful. It really is wonderful. With the events and stuff I do, I really would have preferred 1.8 or even 2. Yeah, well, like I said, that was an issue for me too, Langston. The 2.8 for me in these is covered by the 17-28 and the 28-75. I'd prefer to buy those lenses, and I would prefer to buy those. But that's me. If you're an entry photographer, I suppose, rather than buying a kit lens, you could say just buy the 35 or the 24 or even the 20 if you wanted to go wide. But, you know, at least you're getting a decent lens then. So, that, you know, that's something to think about. What else? Agree that... where were we? We're up here, weren't we? Agree, a lens function is not something that's going to be affected by the housing material. Did that mouse just disappear? Oh, there it is. By the housing material, as long as it's sturdy, exactly. The 180 2.8 was once a very desirable lens for portraiture. Thanks, Bradley, for saying that. And for someone who used to carry around a solid metal sound recorder, yeah, use the hell out of these composites. Yep, exactly, Langston. Chris said the Tamron Primes will be good for anyone on a budget. Exactly. Have to make stuff for people coming in, or they won't grow into customers buying the more expensive stuff. Very good point, Chris. Like I said, rather than buying a kit lens, I would recommend that they buy something like this rather than a kit lens. It's much more, it's cheaper, or even could be the same price, but you're getting a much better lens. That's what people have to understand about that too. Isn't the 135 GM a better option than the 70 to 180? Well, it is sometimes, OG, but the problem is sometimes 135 is too long. That's the issue that you're dealing with. I mean, what do you do if you're shooting a wedding, for instance, and you need 70 mil? If you're dealing with a 135, you can't get it. What you've got to understand is the 135, to get full body, you have to be a long way from the subject. I've done a video about that, comparing the 105 against the 135. A massive difference. That's why often I will use my 85 when I'm dealing indoors. The 135 is just too long. So the 70 to 200 can be a big advantage. It's got a lot more reach, or the 180 would still have a lot more reach from that, like if you were standing back at a wedding. But you've also got the 70mm as well. So if you need to sort of not be so zoomed in, you can zoom out. So no, the 135 won't replace that. That's why I need one of those lenses for when I'm doing weddings. If I'm doing a shoot myself and I've got the time and I can move backwards and forwards, I would use the 135 any day over my 70 to 200. Like I said to you, I've hardly touched it since I've got it, but Kerry still uses it when we do weddings. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. So it doesn't replace it, but because you haven't got the 70mm. G'day Steve, how are you? Oreo said, when you walk the kind of uphill walk that I and Aaron have walked today, you just think, thank God, that 160 grams, 4 centimeters deep, 2.8 prime lens exists. Yeah, I know what you mean, Oreo, exactly. If you are doing a lot of walking, particularly as you get older, having the lighter weight lenses makes a massive difference, I agree. 42 Pro says 15mm 1.8. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? 24 to 120 f4, 135 1.8 or f2. Luke said close focus 40mm with reasonable filter size would be nice. Yeah, would be great. Gerald said would love a 2.8 or 1.8 12mm. So would I, Gerald. That would be amazing. It's the only thing I'm really missing is a really good wide angle lens. If I could get that, my lens really would be complete. My lenses, I would like a 50 1.4 or 1.2. John said an 85 1.8. They probably will, but do you, I mean, I suppose they could bring out a cheap 85, but do you think we need another 85? There's so many 85 lenses. Tamron may do that, but there certainly is a lot of 85 lenses out there, isn't there? I mean, the Sony 85 1.8 is a really good cheap lens as well. I mean, it's I shouldn't say cheap, but it's very affordable if you compare it to what the G Master is or the Batis. Chris said, David Oster, I'm waiting for the 35 1.4. Lovely. Alex said, I find having the 135 1.8 on my A7R III works fantastically. Yeah, that's because you can do that crop in. That's the great thing about the A7R III and also the A7R IV. But remember, you're not getting a 1.8 lens. This is what you have to understand about that. That yes, it will work and you're still getting that depth of field, but it's not a 1.8 lens any longer. That's what you have to consider if you're using crop mode. So you're losing your full frame look. That's what you have to think about. John said it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Exactly, John. I've got a beer ready for Halloween. I'll go drinking for you. Well, that's what I'm drinking. Common Space Brewery, great coffee house in the LA area. Oh, we might be able to have a meet up there, Chris. Greg said 9:30 a.m. 1st of November in Sydney. That's exactly right, Greg. G'day, Greg. Good to see you in here too, by the way. You in Sydney at the moment. Bradley said a 200mm macro for Tamron. Yeah, that could be another thing too, that it might be great if Tamron release a good macro lens. That could be one fantastic thing. I did read the comments and a few were saying tilt shift lenses, but the thing you've got to understand with tilt shift lenses, you don't need a native mount for tilt shift lenses. You can buy any tilt shift lens that's out there and just buy a dumb adapter because they're all manual focus. You don't get autofocus tilt shift lenses. So I don't think Tamron would need to do something like a tilt shift lens. Just go out and buy a Nikon one or a Canon one or whatever. It doesn't matter because they're all going to be manual focus. Stick them on an adapter and they'll work fine. So that's why I don't think Sony will ever release a tilt shift for their mirrorless cameras. I got the so Guy with the Camera has got the 20 pre-ordered. Hope to do a review with it. The MTFs look great. I know all the Tamron lenses seem to be very, very good quality. 200 to 600 2.8, that could also be interesting as well. 90mm macro would be interesting. Yeah, that could be interesting as well, and that may be one that would interest me. I've only got the very short macro, the 30mm 3.5 that I use, that I love. It's tiny, and that's all I use. But yeah, a 90, if they could do, say, a cheap 90mm macro, that may interest me, actually. Jason said, I want some GM tilt shift lenses, but they'll never happen. No, I don't think they ever will. There's no reason for Sony to produce those. They wouldn't sell many of them, you're better off to just go out and buy a Canon or a Nikon one, or any other brand that's out there. I really want a 30 to 350 FE lens, Greg said. David said, hello, David. Great show. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. Does the Tamron 28 to 75 waterproof? I think they're just, I don't know whether they're waterproof. I think they're weather sealed. Yeah, there is a gasket in them. Yep. Yep. There's a gasket there. I've had them in the rain and I've never had a problem, so... David, do you think the GM will make a FE 50mm or 35 to replace the Zeiss lenses? Yes, I do think eventually. I still am a believer that Sony will replace some of the lenses that are out there. I think the next lenses for replacement are going to be the G Master 85. I could really see that one being replaced. Because it needs the better focusing. It needs the 135 linear focus motors in them. So that definitely could be replaced. The 70 to 200 GM could have a version 2. I'm not saying it's a bad lens. The 24 to 70 also could have another version made of it. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad lens at all, but they could do improvements with focus and things like that. Remember, Nikon, Canon all produce version 2 and 3s of their lenses. So I would say that some of the lenses definitely could be replaced. 35 would be a perfect one to be replaced as well. I love the 35 1.4 that I had. But again, I think there's some variations between samples of that lens. I had a very good copy. So I think that too could be made a GM version of a 35. So yes, possibly, David. Ron said, price for the 70 to 180. Well, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be, if I had to guess, I would think around the $1,000-ish USA. That's what I'm guessing anyway. Gerald said, I kept my Canon 17mm 2.8 tilt shift and it works great. Exactly, Gerald, and that's what I'd recommend everyone to do. Just get any Canon, Nikon, whatever tilt shift lens, buy a dumb adapter, and you're right to go. Jason said, yeah, I know I can use Canons, just don't love adapting. But you shouldn't say, but the problem is it's not like you're adapting for autofocus and everything else. You're only really, you could leave that adapter on the camera and then you wouldn't even know you're adapting it. Because you don't need a good adapter. You can just get a dumb adapter that's on there. Get the cheapest one you can that works. Gerald already has the MC11 because he was using Canon lenses. And he wants the autofocus. But if you don't need that side of thing, just get a dumb adapter that's out there that doesn't have any autofocus or whatever, that just gives you the interface to connect. Leave it on. That's all you need to do. Guy with the camera said, I want this really small size of the primes, and Tamron is providing it. 20mm plus small gimbal is travel friendly. Yeah, I must admit, that would make a great gimbal combo. The 24 also would be great on a gimbal as well. I love that because I use the G Master 24 on the gimbal and I love that focus length as well. Matthew said, I'm at school and just wanted to witness the greatness of you, David. Oh, thank you so much, Matthew. Oreo said, we need the 85 and the 51.2 lenses. That would be so good, Oreo, wouldn't it? I would love Sony to do an 85 1.2. But it won't be Tamron to bring those to us. They'll be the next GM releases, in my opinion. Interesting, Oreo. How about an adapter that does tilt shift? No, you have to buy the tilt shift lens. I don't know if there's any adapters that do it. I think you just buy a tilt shift lens and stick an adapter on it. Should I buy the Sony a7 III now or wait for new models? I'm going to talk about that in the story, so wait and we'll see what I talk about in one of the stories coming up. 200 to 600 2.8 are people expecting an aeroplane. Sony should replace a 90mm macro. Love it, but it's slow. The 90 is one of the sharpest Sony lenses, but yes, the autofocus is very slow on that. I agree. Gerald said, that Canon tilt shift is a super lens, as good as a GM, and I keep it on the MC11 in my camera bag. Manual focus. Exactly, that's perfect setup, Gerald. Using my 80D, I have a lot of glass for Canon already. A6 600 looks so sweet. Should I switch? Well, I would. I mean, I certainly would switch. I went from Nikon to Canon, so I'd say yes, as long as you can afford to make that switch. If you have great glass already, just get the MC11 adapter, and that does work very well. But it just depends on, I think going from the ADD to the A6600, that's a definite step up for what you'd be using there. So yeah, I mean, if you can afford it, yes, as long as you can afford it though. Bradley said also have a look at the A7 III too though. That's another one to look at as well. Canon's tilt shift lenses are unbelievable. The new ones even focus to half life size all by themselves. Canon RF lenses are brilliant. And that's it. All right, so let's go to the next story. I just wanted to say this too. Sony financial support report was just released, which is interesting. It's not bad, but they were down 4% roughly. They're saying that it's 3.5, I think, or something. So they're down 3.5%. So it's nothing really drastic. It doesn't probably surprise me because there was nothing really probably announced that was innovating at that time that would force massive sales to increase. You might find next year if they release, say, an A7 IV or something like that, and other cameras, the numbers may jump up. But they haven't really gone down much at all. I mean, if you're looking at it, they're saying here that today Sony issued the Q2 financial report. Compared to last year's Q2 sales, dropped by a small 3.5%. Also, the unit sales dropped, but it has to be expected as the camera as a whole, the company, in other words, as a whole, is focusing on high-profit cameras and lenses, moving away from low-margin compact camera business. So if you look at it, they're probably doing quite well with the full-frame type cameras and the A6000 series cameras, but anything that's point-and-shooty type stuff, they would be dropping dramatically. So that's probably affecting the camera sales as well because they're all limited together in one big thing. They're stills and video cameras. So I think overall, compared to some markets out there, Sony are doing very well. So that's pretty good. There's nothing more that I'd like to talk about on that one. This one, though, I wanted to talk about because this is interesting because Sony Alpha Rumors put down the other day that we're not going to get any new cameras now until early 2020. They're saying the next announcement in February. Now, whether that's going to be, this February or whether it's going to be the February after, I don't know. Let me just check what people are saying down here. Let me just check. Vote. I want to see what people are voting. So most people are voting for the A7S, has 46 votes. Other people are saying the A7 Mark IV has 43% of the votes as well. So, I mean, it looks like now, if you look at this, that we definitely, and they can work this out because they release camera numbers before they're announced, and they're always put there, and then, it can be a couple of weeks later or whatever, the cameras get announced. Well, we haven't seen any announcements at all from Sony listed or whatever. So there's been no product codes done or anything. So you can probably safely say that we're not going to see another camera until sometime now next year. The A9 II is, I think it's released in about a week's time, I believe. I do get that camera on December the 16th. I'm only being sent it by Sony though, and I've got it for 2 weeks. So I'm going to test it for you guys and I'll review it against my A9 version 1. Let you know what I think about it. So I do get that on December the 16th, I think, for 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. But it looks like we're not going to get the A7S III announcement anytime soon, really, or any camera now. So it looks like they're more concentrating now on the A9 II release and also the A7R4 that they've just released as well. But I think, I'm not sure what's going on with the A7S III, or whatever they're going to call that camera. There must be serious issues with that camera to delay it for so long. We've been hearing about that camera, for 2 years now, I think. So it's really interesting how it's taking so long. They're clearly having issues, and I think it's heat related. I just don't think that Sony can do that video camera in the body size that they've got. So they're either waiting for better processors that run much cooler, or they're just going to have to make a decision and say we're going to change the body. And that's one thing about this, that I'm not sure which way Sony is going to go. So they're either going to have to do something revolutionary with processors that run way cooler than what they do at present, or they're going to have to put it into something like a larger body like the SH1, the Panasonic camera. I personally would not mind if it's a video camera. I love the still cameras being around this size, and I like them being as big as that, like the A9 II, and anything in the newer cameras that's going to come out are going to have the larger body now that the A7R4 has, and I don't mind that. I think that's fine. It's not too much, not too different to what I'm using here, and it probably has a bit of a better grip, but I would not have an issue at all with a Sony video camera or a fusion type camera or a hybrid camera being in a bigger body, if that enabled us to have better, you know, like CFast Express cards in there, to give us 4K 60 and higher bit depths and raw video. If they had to go to a bigger body to do that, I would be fine with that. And please, Sony, if you do listen to this, I think most videographers would be the same. You're going to have to get over that small camera body size if you can't produce the technology that we need. Now, like I said, it's either that they're just biding their time to wait for processors to catch up that will run cool enough so you can stick them in the small body, or they just can't physically do it in the body size that it is. Remember, they did say that they want to exceed expectations, but the longer they wait, the harder that's going to be, because already Panasonic are releasing cameras that can do amazing things. Now, the Canon 1DX, the next one that's coming out, has amazing features. You know, the Fujis that are coming out have high bit rates. The Nikon cameras that are coming out have high bit rates and the ability to shoot RAW to external recorders and things like that. So the longer they wait, the harder it's going to be for them to exceed expectations, because other cameras keep being released with these amazing features that keep coming out. So it's an interesting scenario. I just hope that Sony aren't protecting their high-end cameras like the FS7 and cameras like that, and that's why they're not releasing something on the video side, because if they do that, it's going to bite them up in the butt. So I just hope they're not doing that side of it. I'd love to know your opinion about this as well. I think, though, I do believe that the A7 III is going to be probably replaced sometime next year, so we'll have an A7 IV. That could be a really interesting one, because that may be something that's around that line of the 36 megapixel sensor, similar body to the A7R4. You know, your dual card slots that are quick again. They'll give you a really good value camera. So I think it probably will be a really good dumbed down version of the A7R4. And like I said, it's probably going to be 36 megapixels, something like that. So I think that will be coming out sometime next year, and that really excites me as well. I think that will be a great upgrade from the A7 III. So I'm looking forward to that, because that gives you at least sort of a reasonable crop mode as well. What will you get, about 16 megapixels or something like that? So, you know, that'll be at least an interesting camera that comes out. So that's exciting. Can't wait for that announcement. So I think that will come. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out before the A7 S3. The way they're going with that and how much they must be struggling with that camera. So I'm going to open it up to chat now, because we'll go through that. But let me know in the chat down below too how you feel about this. You know, is it bothering you waiting for Sony to release another video camera? Do you think that the A7 IV will come out before the A7S III? I'd love to know that in the chat as well. So let's go to Q&A. Where were we? Someone's just messaging me, I think. All right, we're up to here, I think. The Sigma 70mm 2.8 macro is a nice sharp lens. Yes, it is. It's a great lens. I think Gerald has that one, and he loved that lens. Sony should better their ergonomics. They should abandon the small camera philosophy when it comes to professionals. I don't mind the camera though, Satch, but you remember that's your choice. If you don't like it, Sony is obviously not the camera for you, but you can always put the battery grip on, and then they feel like the old digital SLRs in size anyway. I think the new A7R IV if you look at that, the ergonomics are really good on that camera. There's a couple of things that I don't like though. Like I said, the screen at the back could definitely be improved. They should be putting touch screens and things like that on there. But the ergonomics, I think, of the Sony cameras are fine. I love the A9. I love the ergonomics on this camera. But it all comes down to what you like. If it's not for you, well, you need to be with Nikon or Canon. Also saying hi, David. Hi. What else have we got? Oh yeah, Gerald said there, I have the Sigma Art 70 2.8 macro. He loves it. And he showed some images of that, and they were really good. Hey, all windy and rainy in Brooklyn, New York. G'day, Rick. How are you? Sony should immediately better their LCD. I agree completely. They need to get rid of that LCD. It's 4 years old technology. It's so old. It's ridiculous. They make such great display panels. I know. I really don't understand that. I really don't. For today, which camera is the best for weddings? Well, I can only give you my opinion. I believe the A9 is the best wedding camera that is available. If you haven't got the A9, I think the A7 III probably. When you're shooting weddings, even when I had the A7R II, I sold that recently, I would only use that for a very rare, if I wanted portraits that I thought maybe blown up to ridiculous sizes. But to be honest, I stopped using it for weddings, and I was only ever using my A7 III and the A9. I think the 24 megapixel file size for me, others are going to disagree, and that's completely fine. For me, 24 megapixels is ample. I mean, you know, I blow up this. So this was done with a 24 megapixel camera. It's stunning. If you looked at this close, it's gorgeous. I mean, it really is beautiful. So this was done with a 20... Most of my wedding clients don't go bigger than this. I could go bigger than this if I wanted to, though. I could probably go quite a bit bigger than this with a 24 megapixel file size. So, you know, you don't need ridiculous file sizes for doing weddings. Let me just put this back. And this is why I'm saying you have to decide things personally. If you like to do one image and then crop multiple times, then the A7R4 or the A7R3 is fantastic because you have that ability to crop. I usually get it right in camera though, so I don't really crop much at all. The idea for me is to get it into Lightroom and get through it so quick. I don't like to have to crop. Anything you do in Lightroom, cropping or whatever, takes time and slows it down. It also slows your computer down. That's why I think the 24 megapixel size is the perfect size for weddings. If you're talking about portraits, I'd say, you know, then the A7R4 or A7R3 is probably the better one to use because you can be slower. You're not going to take as many images. You might want to do skin retouching, full skin retouching, studio work. That's where the higher megapixel cameras come in. But if you're dealing with events, I think the 24 megapixel is the perfect file size. That's why I'm saying the A7 III or the A9 are the perfect ones. The A9 for me is my favorite because I love the tracking and things that does for me. I love the electronic shutter, which I use all the time. I never use it really on the manual shutter. It's always on electronic. Or mechanical shutter, I should say. I also love the fact it will go up to 1/32,000th of a second. That, to me, can't be overstated because I love to shoot things like the 135 or the 85 Batis wide open, and then it gives me the ability to go to 1/32,000th of a second. You can't do that with the other cameras, so that, for me, is amazing. So there's features like that. So I'd say, for me personally, the A9 is the best wedding camera that's available. The A7 III for me would be the next one. And then after that, then I would use the A7R4 and the A7 III. But if you're doing portraits, then it swings. But that's just for weddings. Photomix says, Alpha Rumors making more Sony Alpha fake news. I love it. So Guy with the Camera said, this year, so no new camera for me then. Need that S3. Yep, I'm hearing you. Rick said the next camera will be the A7S. 67, and he has 2 card slots. What does that mean? I'm not sure. The A7 series has 2 card slots, like the A7 III. The A7S is going to be a disappointment. I hope not. What else have we got? They probably just dropped the S versions. We've got there. What else have we got? Rick said, hey Dave, what would you like to see in a new Sony full frame camera? For me, full touchscreen. Yeah, look, I agree, Rick. The main thing I think they could do an improvement on at the moment is I don't have an issue with the menus. I mean, I think the menus are fine because I'm usually using all of the, your custom buttons. That's the way that I work it out, or the FM menu. But it would be fantastic to be able to just touch, if you did need to change menus, to touch the screen and manipulate it properly that way. Like to get full things in that regard. You double tap to take a photo and just to be quicker without lag and things like that. Like it's not bad, but just to be smoother if you're dealing with focus, like dragging around the monitor. Also, the resolution and colors are okay, but they're nothing fantastic on. Like I said, it's 4 years old technology that we're dealing with Sony cameras. They must have a massive inventory of these things, and they just keep using them. Their phones, if you look at the Sony phones, are amazing. The screen on those is gorgeous. Just give me a screen like what's on a phone. Do you like my screensaver? Woohoo! Oh, it's gone. Yeah. Ooh. Look at that, I love it. Wonder Woman. I mean, give us screens like these. Like give us a screen that's decent, like what you're looking at here, with decent resolutions, with a fast response. They really could up their. That's the one area where I think Sony are really lacking, is the screen on the back is really poor actually. Jason says, I'm waiting to see his Canon 80 megapixel RF body before I spend on the A7R 1V. You're going to wait a while for that, though, I think, Jason. That could be any time. It might be late next year, but it certainly will be an interesting camera. That's for sure. Where were we? We were down here. Photomix says, at best, Sony is just going to be able to match what Panasonic did, which will equal disappointing. Sony A7 III is not too loud for weddings. No, it's not. No, it's fine. I've never had anyone complain about the A7 III. The A7 III is a fantastic camera. It really is a fantastic camera. A7 III, you can shoot with electronic shutter, no choice at all. No, I never shoot electronic shutter with my A7 III. If you're doing a wedding, you cannot risk rolling shutter. So don't use it. You can't risk banding either. Don't use it, because the problem is that you you won't see it on the screen, but you'll see it when you get home, and that's the problem, and you can't get rid of it. So I would not recommend, if you're shooting with an A7 III, to use the electronic shutter. Use mechanical shutter if you're dealing with something like a wedding. You just cannot ruin those images, and you can't see it on the screen. That's the problem. The A7 for real-time tracking, yep, that would be fantastic. iPhone can do anamorphic 4K 60 with that moment lens. Yes, it would. I'd love to try that actually. Gerald says, I think they can do better than Panasonic if they go for a bigger body. Let's hope so, Gerald. They can do better if they uncripple their cameras. And Photomix says, but Gerald, they won't. That's the point. Capoto says the A7 IV and the Tammy 7180, boom. Yeah, what a great combination that would be. I'm just laughing at Langston saying about the Canon cripple hammer. Chris said, would love Sony to up their APS-C bodies to match the current A7 bodies. Yeah, I thought the A7000 was going to have that actually, and it hasn't come about. I thought the A6600 was never going to be. I did think the A7000 was going to be like in an A7 III body. Gerald said, Gerald and Photomec are arguing between each other. Shover Creation said, yes, very frustrated. I want the Sony camera that will have 10-bit internal. Yeah, me too. I want to start doing green screen, and that's why 10-bit's important for me. Langston says, Oh, they're just talking about each other. Photomix says Panasonic puts high-end video specs in their cameras. If Panasonic can't do it, Sony can't. The latest S1 though is, but it's still not full frame, is it? That's the problem. I'm just laughing at Gerald saying Photomix doesn't convince me ever. Laugh out loud. I love it. You guys behave yourselves. Rick said, I think current Sony cameras are so advanced. New cameras are a luxury and not a necessity. I mean, they are getting to a point where it's diminishing returns, obviously. There's, like I said, small improvements that they could make. Like I said, with, for instance, the video side, they're very lacking. And that's what we have to understand from a video perspective. They're still very lacking. The screen on the back definitely could be fixed. And that's one area that they could definitely be fixed. John said, well, my A9 being the backup. I'm not sure what that was about. I probably missed it. Waiting for the A7 IV to replace my A6000. Fingers crossed by February. Guy with the camera said the Panasonic SH1 has some features that I don't want. That don't exist in the FX9. You need some sort of Venice. I can't haul the Venice around town. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. The bigger cameras like the FS7 and stuff like that are just too big. And that's one of the problems. But I think looking at it, all these cameras are a little bit short-sighted. I don't think if Sony brought out an amazing camera like an A7S III with great features, people would still buy an FS7 because they need the XLR adapters. They need all these things that they can put in there, like put hard drives in, things like that, you know, that SSDs and all these other attachments that they run, you know, the rigs to do your focusing and stuff like that. Like, they're not going to replace an FS7 if you're doing full-on videography for high-end clients with something like an A7S III. But they may work in conjunction with one another. Like the A7S III would be like a B camera for that. And that's what we need. Like they should be putting Venice Color Science in an A7S III, and then you'd be using that in conjunction with an FS7. They would sell a bucket load of those, and it's not going to affect their Venice side at all, I don't believe, because the people that are buying the Venice type cameras, these FS7s and all these sort of things, need the adapters that come with that. They need to be running these big XLR systems that run on there, you know, for audio and things like that they just use. So I think it's a bit short-sighted, and I think companies have to get over that, protecting their gear business that they do. Sony should put the Walkman into the camera. Would be great for solo photo shoot. I love it. Aaron saying, g'day guys. Hi Aaron, good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your holiday over in Italy with Oreo. It is a fun site for news. I know Photomix criticising Sony Alpha rumours, but I always like looking at it. It's a bit of fun. What else have we got? I'm just ignoring those where everyone's sort of bantering between each other. It's quite funny to look at, but I'm just not reading them out. No one is talking about Sony straight out of camera. What do you mean about that? I find the straight out of cameras pretty good to me. Jan said, do you think that that we will see in 2020 a Sony A7 IV? Yes, I do. And we will also see a GH6 as well. Yep. I'm not sure about the Olympus though, but I do think we'll see a GH6 next. Who knows what that's going to have? And I think we'll see an A7 IV. The A7S, we're just still waiting. Who knows what's going on with that? What else have we got? Greg said, I had a quick play with the A9 II, and the main difference is the body, which is almost identical to the A7 IV. The other improvements are focused on high-end sport shooters. Yeah, and that's what I'll probably predict when I review it. I'm probably still going to love it, but for me, it's just not a big enough update to go from the A9 to the A9 II. If you're a sports shooter, no problem at all, because you need that networking stuff and things like that it would be amazing. For me, it's certainly not a big enough step up from the A9 to the A9 II, but I'll tell you when I do a review. Thanks for that, Greg. Really appreciate it too, guys, if you could give me a thumbs up. It does make a big difference to the channel. Also lets people know I'm on live, so I would really appreciate that if you could do that for me. Rick said, I must get a pair of flashes and have been using budget speedlights, newer and Godox. Is it worth it to get the Sony FLV 60RM speedlight 600? Rick, it's hard to say. I have the two Sony flashes. I don't think if I was buying them again, though, that I would spend the money that I spent on those Sony flashes. I think they're just too expensive for what you get. I would probably now just get something like the Godox flashes if I was getting on-camera flashes, rather than spending the money for the Sony flashes. I just don't think I'd spend the money on that. I've got two of the Sony flashes. I think it's the HLV 50s or whatever they were. They were around $600 each when I bought them. I don't think for what you get, though, it's worth it. I would stick with something like one of the higher-end Godox on-camera flashes or around that area. Rather, I wouldn't be spending that sort of money on an on-camera flash, no. Langston says, yes, but the management won't allow that, David. So even though you are right about the market segments, are you talking about they won't allow you to have cameras that have similar features? Yeah, you're probably right, but I think it's a flawed argument, though. That's the problem. Wait for the A7 IV or get the A9 II with having the A9 now. If you have the A9 now, John, I would wait unless you need the A9 II. If you're not doing sports and stuff like that, I would probably wait and see what happens with an A7 IV. Like I said, that may be something that comes out that is like a mini A7R4 that's 36 megapixels, might have the tracking, and well, it will have the tracking and things like that. So I'd probably wait unless you're in a real hurry. Nick on his dad standing in for Casper. I love it. Sant said, if the Sony A7 IV has 30 megapixel sensor with improved color science, I think it can be the best hybrid camera. Well, who knows what that may be? That may be the camera that we get next that replaces the A7S. We don't know for sure that we're going to get an A7S III replacement, do we? I mean, we don't know. It might be that they do an A7 IV that has 4K 60p and 36 megapixels, and they make that their hybrid camera, their fusion camera that comes out that has all those features in it. We just don't know which way Sony's going to go. I mean, they did really surprise everyone with the A7 III, so they might do it with the A7 IV. It's a possibility. We just don't know. Guy with the camera said, David, Gerald, I'm rolling with the A9 and the A7R III. I'm firmly in the Sony camp. I totally agree with David's assessment for a true B camera. Cap the record times and bit rates, etc. You would think the ghost would appear on Halloween. I love it. Hi, David. Wanted to say love your content. Thank you so much, Sev. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Canon 1DX Mark III gives 16 megapixel frames per second mechanical shutter. A9 II only 10 frames per second. Yeah, but we still have to wait for this. Like, the specs do sound good, and I did talk about that in detail. That looks amazing if the specs are as it is, but I'm now sort of leaving it now until we get the announcement now to see what it actually does come, and they haven't been hit with the cripple hammer. If that camera is as announced, it's going to be incredible. Random person says, I don't see... Photomaniac is talking about that. What do you say? I don't like this about my Sony camera, Gerald. I love my Sony camera and find my experience with it to be pleasant, and your issues don't affect me at all. They're just talking to each other. That's okay. Guy with the camera says... A9, A7 IV, Sony is not handing out that stack sensor anytime soon. Was really hoping the R4 had it. Yeah, I know, they really have held on to that. It just shows how advanced that stack sensor is, doesn't it? Because no one still yet has been able to come even close to that. Raymond said, really liked your wedding video. Was the slow-mo 1080? No, I shot everything in... Yes, it was, sorry. Everything was shot in 1080 50p, or you do it 1080 60 if you're in the US. And then I slowed it down 50% in post. That's why I'm so hanging out for 4K 60p, because then I can shoot 4K 50 and slow that down in post and have a 10K file that I can crop in. That's so what I'm waiting for. The 1080p though video on this is superb. 1080p 5060, 1080p 60p on this is amazing. It is on the A7 III as well. It's the same on all the cameras. The 1080p footage on all the Sony cameras is amazing, but I particularly like the A9 video. There's just something about it that I just adore so much. What else have we got? So yes, it was that 1080p 50. Sev, I'm waiting on the day when Sony releases firmware upgrade to allow for lossless compression. Well, yeah. RAW, we're not going to get, well, you never know, but I don't think we're going to get that. Rick said, thanks in advance on the flashes. I was thinking the communication between the camera and the flash would be that much better. No, not for on-camera flash, Rick. Save your money. You know, you're going to get 2 of those or even more for the price you'll pay for the one Sony flash. Like I said, if I was buying them again, I wouldn't buy the Sony flashes like I've got. They're too expensive for what you get. The Sony 7200 f4 has a warmth to it that the GM 2.8 doesn't. Interesting, Sunch. What else? Mark said, A9 is still my precious. Me too. I love that camera. Very difficult to pick up the A7R III these days. Once you use the A9, it's so hard to put down. Even the other controls. You know, I just love using these extra controls. Some don't like it. I love it. You know, just to be able to change your focusing mode from there directly. You know, whether you want to go high, low, shutter speed and everything in here. I just adore this camera. I've never had a camera that I've loved as much as I love that one. Guy with the camera said the 1DX Mark III blackout equals blackout life. The live view implementation of the current 16 frames per second is poor. Oreo said actually the fact that they skipped step 3 of the S model and went straight to the R4 is a strong cue that you may be right about the A7 IV going to be the Fusion camera. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, Oreo. It would not surprise me at all. And the reason why I'm thinking this is because they went so far, they gave us so much with the A7 III. Like I said, they blew everyone out of the water when the A7 III came out, that I would not be surprised to see them do the same thing with an A7 IV, and we don't get an A7S III. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Let's wait and see what happens there. Aaron says, hi, Oreo, I'm from the street. From down the street. Oh, yeah, from down the street. Yeah, because he's in Italy, Oreo, at the moment. Aaron. Gerald said, love my A9 and the A7R4. They give me all I need, but would go for the A7S III with better video specs. That will be my next one for sure. Your Perfect Studio said, just discovered you. Your channel because of this stream. Really great. I love Sony cameras. Even my NX3 is still going strong after almost a decade. Thank you so much, Your Perfect Studio. Welcome to the channel. Mark said, press pass tonight at the Brisbane Bullets basketball game. We'll have fun. Oh, fantastic, Mark. Look forward to seeing your images from that. Gerald said, yes, the A9 and the A9 II have the best controls of any Sonys. The A9 is very special. No real need for the A9 II for me yet. I'm exactly the same. Just while we're here, don't forget too, guys, as well, that join us on the Photography Videography School. Let me just move this down. I'll put the link down below. We are now down to 5,500 subscribers or followers in there. So just check it out because we have some amazing things. You'll notice I've posted here that I'm talking about that toolbox. I've also posted on that I'm live now. And then, you know, people are just posting all the time in here. It's for videographers and also for still shooters. You can see here that Oreo and Aaron have posted a video this morning, a live video came in. You know, we've got some stuff that's amazing in this channel. Leo shared some stuff talking about the new Mavic Mini. You know, brilliant. Join us on there. I'll put the link in the description box down below. It's probably the most positive site that you will see on Facebook because we don't allow any prima donna stuff. There's no bullying. horrible comments and all that sort of stuff. If you're that type of person, you're going to get booted. You'll get one warning and then you're out. So please join us on there, guys. It's a fantastic site. Love to see you on there. Last story before we go, I forgot about it, was the Mavic Mini. I just wanted to mention this. I've got the Mavic Pro. It's not the latest one, it's the one before that one. It's the first version of the Mavic Pro, which I love. I used that on the wedding video that I looked at the other day. This really does interest me, though I may get this eventually to do some travel with. It really looks like it's a nice little unit. I mean, how tiny is it? The only thing is it will only do 2.7K at 30 frames per second, so you won't get 4K 60 out of it, which is maybe an issue. I'd have to see how the quality is. But if you're dealing with something that you want to have for travel that's extremely light, looks fantastic. You can see how tiny it is. It lasts for 30 minutes and it's only 250 grams. So it's one way of getting around the rules of having to have licenses and things like that because it's so lightweight. So it's certainly something that, you know, I probably will get down the track, particularly as I do some traveling and stuff. This would be a great one to take overseas or on a plane, stuff like that. And that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, I may try and pop on over the weekend, show you my setup that I've got for this dance studio shoot. I'll show you how the full setup's done. You may be interested to see how that's done. Apart from that, I've got some reviews that will go up next week. I've still got a stack of stuff that have been sent to me, actually. Last couple of things I'll discuss here. Jan said, have you seen the TechArt Sony FE to Nikon Z-mount adapter? I have seen it, but I just haven't got lenses that I can use for it, so I can't say how well it works. Photomiak may be able to answer quickly if he's listening, if he's used that TechArt adapter. Chris said Mavic Mini is pretty exciting in Canada. Drone licensing for an advanced license, which you need is pretty intense. 249 grams avoids that license, and that's the great part about this. See, having that small drone avoids that license, so you don't have to have that license if you're using this. So for countries like Canada and stuff, it looks fantastic. But I don't know how crippled it's going to be, because I noticed Janice said, David, the Mavic Mini has no manual exposure controls and stuff. So you are going to be... obviously, there's going to be limitations, and I suppose Mavic have to look after the Pro. They want you to get this as a base entry model, and then you'd move up to the Mavic Pro for more advanced features. So that's something you've got to think about as well. Aaron's just saying, bye guys, great night, great show. Photomiak also said, great show, David, thanks mate. And that's about it. Mirrorless said, it's amazing that Tamron 70-180 2.8 weight is similar to Sony's 70-200 f4. Exactly, that's incredible when you think you're getting a 2.8 lens. They've done an amazing job. And that's about it. Photomiak said, I bought the TechArt adapter and made a video about it. So if you check Photomiak's show, he's done a video about that, so you might be able to watch that video if you're interested in that as well. All right, guys, thanks so much, everyone. It's time for me to finish the coffee that I've got here and then go down for a real coffee. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy your Halloween if you're in the UK and the US and Europe, wherever you are. We had ours last night. Apart from that, it's good day from down under, and I'll see you all soon for the next show. Bye for now.